Welcome to Wisdom Exchange TV. My name is Suzanne F Stevens, Chief Edge Optimizer for the Ignite Excellence Group of Initiatives. One of our initiatives is the Ignite Excellence Foundation, which invests, develops, and inspires future women leaders in emerging countries. With that goal in mind, we produce Wisdom Exchange TV, which is a resource to aid African women to learn, lead, and succeed in life, business, and community. This is an education site. We learn strategies and tactics from leading ladies, and we learn about their areas of expertise as well as leadership lessons. It is a forum where women and men will be inspired by the change agents, African trailblazers, pioneers and leaders of many in politics, business, philanthropy, and education. Please go to Suzanne F Stevens' fan page and join the conversation. We want to know who you would like to interview, and come back to the homepage on a regular basis as we syndicate blogs from our leading ladies as well as key resources. Today we are in Salaam, Tanzania, and we'll have an exchange with a leading lady in philanthropy and business, Modesta Lilian Mahiga, founder and group managing director of Professional Approach Group. Recognized worldwide as one of the African young leaders, more recently was acknowledged by the African Leadership Institute, Leadership for Change in Africa Fellow 2011, and even more recent than that, was recognized as 20 Movers and Shakers in Africa in the London Times edition in March 2012. Please welcome our leading lady, Modesta Lilian Mahiga. Welcome, Modesta.
Thank you.
It is
so
nice to meet you.
I'm very grateful.
And I got to tell you, your offices are fantastic.
Thank you.
As the group director, the Professional Approach Group philosophy is, and it's said everywhere, mindset change for national transformation.
Yes.
What do you see as the biggest transformation that can happen through your initiatives?
First thing is to realize is how richly endowed Tanzania is. It is important in the work that we do for people to first see Tanzania for what it is. Because at the end of the day, we're saying Tanzania is positioned to lead Africa. I'm not just talking about natural endowment. I mean, geographically we're situated, the relationships we've had, our history in nation building and galvanizing support from different countries. It is poised to take off. But unless we see the value of it, we could be grooming people who would otherwise see the value of being elsewhere. There's a horrible song that's once been played that I'd rather be a dog in the US than a human being in Tanzania. And so if we don't see the value of this country, then we won't see what it is that we can tap into to develop it and in turn develop ourselves. First thing is, it's almost like a tourist commission. Mm-hmm. We get you to see all that Tanzania has and take pride in being Tanzanian.
And how do you do that?
We will start with, so it's first of all the introduction and get people to talk about where they see themselves going, because if you don't know where you're going, anywhere will take you there. And we have this slide transition, just how beautiful this country is, everything we can find. And it's just using the background, the slide going through, and where maybe the highest freestanding mountain in the world is Kilimanjaro. And the deepest lake, the blah blah blah, the second deepest lake, etc. And then at the end it says, how can a country that is so rich be ranked one of the poorest in the world? And people start get going. It's really emotive, this slide transition. Because yes, we do have all of those. And with the titles, because people don't know that Tanzania is only endemic to Tanzania, or we have the second highest waterfall next to Victoria in Africa, and all kinds of things that are just specific to Tanzania. And so this is the first time they hear of them, and those superlatives as to how great it is, and they see them in living color if only in the slide transition. And then this thought, my goodness, what am I part of? What have I ignored? Because domestic tourism isn't big in Tanzania. And so it's usually we see foreigners coming in. So if you don't know a thing, how will you know the value of it? How will you know how to tap into not exploiting, but using it for opportunities? And so that first question, how can a country so rich be ranked one of the poorest in the world? Really gets people emotional and thinking.
When you're coaching them, what is the objective of the coaching itself?
Behavioral change.
Okay.
We're talking about change management, transformation organizations.
Okay.
But you cannot go at organization level without looking at mindsets of people. I would say it's been almost 50 years of socialism. And what that tells you is First of all, with what Nyerere did, is we close off because we're building our nation first. So we're very nationalistic and we close up to everybody else. And anyone who's entrepreneurial or looks to do business, that's treasonous. Because why would you want to be the same as everybody else? So our ambitions are quite low. But also at the same time, because the state provided for everything, we don't have a thirst for greater. You just see just what's functional and the utilities and the minimum possible. We're very grateful for whatever we get. You don't have people who have a thirst for quality and standards and who demand them. And so how do you get someone who first of all doesn't appreciate customer is king, because anybody who has money and aspires for greater is treasonous. For almost 50 years of that mindset. You don't have somebody who is really moved by incentives for producing quality work because you do the minimum so you don't get fired. So there is a challenge in the way we see ourselves, the way we perform, and then there is a pride because we're very nationalistic against all else. There is a pride for as long as I don't bother you, what does it matter what I do with you in mind? Ultimately, our organizations, we want to be competitive. We understand what this nation holds and how young our economy is, and we really want Tanzania to play a role. Because Tanzania can well develop without Tanzania is developing.
We've seen a lot of it. It is an absolutely beautiful country. But what I'm also very fascinated in is you're talking to organizations about change management. I talk to organizations about change management. I don't start with Canada. What you're doing is really positioning yourself as what is unique about your approach. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I understand it. Is let's love our country first, then we can love our company.
Absolutely.
And if we love our company, we need to see what position and what change we can do to affect our country.
Absolutely. And so my audience has to be predominantly Tanzanian, or else it doesn't work. And also that is actually the edge that we have on others, that we are Tanzanian and this is what we're advocating for, because we're still very nationalistic. And so you say, what's in it for me? After all, this company is coming here and they're exploiting us and they're going to make their money and leave. I always tell people, ask yourself, what's in it for me? Most of the time you feel very shy, you feel ashamed to ask that. But it is important because if you don't see what's in it for you, you won't drive this thing, you won't own it. And what I'm saying is, there's something in it for Tanzania, and as a Tanzanian, there's a place for you, if only you're willing to see the opportunity and to transform the way you think, perform, and present yourself to tap into it.
You're helping people find a higher purpose.
Absolutely.
For themselves, which I guess leads to Maanisha Foundation. I love this, the media edutainment program used national media to empower Tanzanian youth. Positively change the way they think, perform, and present themselves for business success. What was the catalyst to focus on youth?
So my background is gender and child law, and I wanted to make a difference in the lives of women and children in Tanzania. I realized that you might win a case in court, but you haven't transformed people's lives outside of it. So what are they going to do with that verdict? Eat it? And so I've asked myself, what are the issues that actually end up being legal wrangles and people at each other in court? And it's socioeconomic. Mostly economic in nature. The lot of Tanzanian women and men really is more or less the same. Tanzania as a whole needs transformation. And then as we go higher up in the level of intervention, then you will see the discrepancies even more between women and children. But from the onset, everybody needs help. And so that coupled with, there's a time when I worked and I was in recruitment. And we had the creme de la creme, the best from universities coming in. And I would only take 1 out of 50 for an entry-level sales representative position. And that year I had to recruit 200 people. So 200 times 50, and I said, that's crazy. And these are the best, and we have this thing, our certificates mean everything. That means the door's open and I'm in, I am a blah, 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 we call it holder, this holder, that holder, And when you tell them, well, that is not enough. It's great, you've got a certificate, so does the rest of the world. What edge do you have over everyone else? And that got to me, because they thought that was it. For whatever sacrifices the families made for them to get into business, to get the education that they got, they thought this is it. All doors open from now on. And then you're sitting in this chair, swiveling at this multinational saying, I'm sorry, you're not what it takes. need to get out and show what it takes. But we have a lot of xenophobic, disenchanted youth out there. And so, starting business, we initially thought we need to groom people for business, for employment. But even at that level, when somebody's being interviewed, they already have, somehow been compromised, whether it be upbringing or the education system. Hence the need to go back to the education system. And so we would close office every Friday. The entire team would go to a different secondary school or tertiary institution every single Friday. But still, we were not reaching enough people, and even the programs that we had with each school wasn't enough. And hence the media. Just like, okay, go mass media. Media houses that have nationwide reach. The other thing, you don't want to tell people that our education system is so compromised that it will amount to nothing. Many education systems have challenges. What you want to say is, perhaps we've been learning things and cramming and thinking just the head knowledge is what it takes. But we say in Swahili, ujanja. You need to be a little street smart, and you need to position yourself for business, and that's what Maanisha does. It bridges what the education system doesn't provide, not because it isn't a good education system, it's just not relevant, and prepares you for the world of work and competitiveness.
Even I've interviewed here, and I've seen the same thing. Sure. Papers, PhDs, masters. I've got 3 masters. Why can't I do the job? Do you have any experience? No.
Well, sorry.
What do you think some of the biggest challenges youth have beyond that to make it in the business world?
First of all, honestly, confidence. We are a timid nation. We really respect hierarchy. And so somewhere along that road, I am here, I'm a young person. Being a woman puts you even lower than your brothers and sisters and peers. And also, there is this sense of somebody else. We must respect the food chain. Somebody higher than me, and they're entitled first, or somebody owes it to me to groom me, to prepare me. And so my parents owe to me that I go to school, and the government owes. You could litter your streets, and you're asking where the government is. I mean, fine, local government, local council has that job to do. But why are you littering and then asking somebody else to pick up after you? So there is a timidity. I must respect my area, which is also hypocrisy in a way, because we're very fired up about our ideas. We just want to show it formally. And so you being white, I'm meant to bow down to you. And then there is I'm incapable. Somebody owes it. Socialism does that to you. The state self. So somebody somehow, somewhere is meant to improve my lot, and if they don't, I'm doomed. You should listen to media. Oh, if the government, and we need the government to, and somebody, what about you? And I am of the opinion, if something has to be done, I am somebody. I'll do it. I'll run with a little bit that I can. And so those are some of the challenges. But now, we see what the rest of the world has to offer, and we're excited. Media does that, especially youth and social media. So we see what we can get, but we don't want to put in the time to get the results. We want to quickly be like everybody else, because it's embarrassing to still live like we're in socialism when we're supposed to be in a free economy and a global economy.
What can society do to help short circuit youth and understanding that they do have an obligation to give back to their society and take responsibility for themselves?
Our situation here is our leaders are running rapid, doing as they please. And so if, again, we really respect hierarchy, is there somebody else or the rung, on a higher rung, this is what they do. Who am I, little minion me at the bottom, to do anything different? It would be good if we had a situation where we say, do what they say, not what they do. They don't even say something that leads you in the right direction. If I were to be practical, I would say, first of all, let children's voices be heard. Let them ask and answer. Let them question. Critical thinking, problem solving, we don't really have that. We memorize and we regurgitate things. Let children be free. In other words, we'll stop being curious, and you expect certain things in adults. You expect decision making and leadership, and you don't really get that. People aren't leaders, they end up being bosses. We boss each other around because that's what you do when you get into that position. But we don't coach and teach each other and hold each other's hands. We need to see people lead by example. There need to be penalty when things aren't done right. It is such a pity right now. We have more young people standing as examples than we have formal de jure leaders in positions. But also exposure is very important, especially exposure to work and a higher work ethic. No one is going to change the rules of engagement because you're Tanzanian anyway. The world is moving. If you have a handicap, make a plan. Rules of engagement are not going to be changed for you. We need to see this. We need to see systems at work. We need to see people penalized when performance is compromised. We need to understand that there are peaks and there are troughs and it's a cycle. But we need to see this in action. So mentorship, exactly what we were talking about, before we started our session. It's very important to see people I know whose beginning I can trace, not high and lofty notions of foreigners that I can't relate to, but somebody who I know has started. And this is one of the reasons I've started talking about what I do from when I started. And my company took a peak in 2009. I wasn't even sure I'd see the time of day. But it is important for people to go through the process with you, not when you're already up there and they can't relate to that success. But also, we have to see that it is a struggle, it is a pull and push, and sometimes things don't go well, but you still keep at it. But when we come out very plastic, and we've got these smiles, and we say, yes, I've made it, and you've got to look at me. Young people can't relate to it, and so they just want to have that without appreciating the journey that it took to get there.
What would be a couple pieces of advice you'd say to someone that's a youth to get them to take ownership for themselves?
First of all, know why you want to do what it is you want to do. Know that there's a purpose. I want to do something. Understand that it is a marathon. It's not a 100-meter sprint. Factor in that you might actually dip and things will not go so well. But when you factor that in, you expect it. When you expect it, you can ride over it. It's not the end of you when things don't go well. It's not the end if actually things implode and they fall. It is part of the learning process. And this, one other way that you will not, tread. Also, surround yourself with people who think. They may not be in your area, but they think big. And they pursue greatness. Not pettiness. Don't surround yourself with somebody who wants to flash straight away just to look the part. Make sure that what you're seeking, if it is wealth, that it is sustainable. And so be in it for the long haul. And I cannot overemphasize professionalism and ethics. It pays off. It is the greatest investment you can make on anything that you want to do. And something else which is a challenge where not so many people can find employment or start a business is volunteering. It's worked wonders for me. Volunteer somewhere and prove yourself. Because at the end of the day, if you say, I've got this certification and I've got a blah, blah, blah degree, 4.1, okay, that's really nice. So what can you do? What have you done? And volunteering gives that opportunity. And even for people to see what you're capable of doing and shining and opening other doors. So that's something else. We feel that it's too much pride, but I've studied Modesta. I've got my degree and you don't know what it took for my family to get me this far. How embarrassing it would be for me to get on the bus and be volunteering. Well, what are the other options?
Again, different countries, different evolutions. In Canada, volunteering is the way to differentiate yourself. Who's the person that has stepped up, street smart, character? It comes out in volunteers.
Absolutely.
And going for jobs, they become references. First of all, what would be some of the challenges that you encountered? And then how did you overcome them in creating so many initiatives?
At first, it was getting people to believe that I was onto something good. Each time I spoke to someone about what I want to do, and it was in human resource capacity building to transform Tanzania, I say this all the time, I'd end up getting job offers. So imagine I'm sitting here, I've got a business, I'm coming to speak to you about my business, and you offer me a job. And so initially it was to be taken seriously. And being a woman, being pretty, sometimes you find that people will take things the wrong way, or they're, maybe they think that you might be desperate, and so we'll try to pull stunts. Making sure that they understand that this isn't that type of woman. And yes, I'd like to get an opportunity to work with you, but I'm not desperate. And at the end of the day, you get more from me working with you here than working anything else on you. Initially, it took a while. but it's very clear now. There's almost 5 years. It's a pity it's taken that long for them to understand that yes, she's young and she does want to do something, but she's not desperate. And at the end of the day, I know that what we do here is serve. So I know I'm serving Tanzania. I'm serving you. I'm making you look good. You don't make me uncomfortable with it. The other thing, very much business, chicken and egg. Do I get the people who will then help me make the money to then invest back? We're social entrepreneurs to invest back in the businesses. Or do I make the money so I can get the people, so I can afford to pay the people? And so that's another challenge that I faced. Had to do a lot on my own. I had to do a lot with a few resources. And the people came and the money came. They actually came together, but initially it was very challenging. There was a time I went crazy and I just got a lot of people. And I had a person for almost every role. That didn't work out well. That was the 2009 period. Other challenges is what makes you different. People hear human resource development, organizational development, and even personal transformation. It's all clumped up as the very same thing. Getting people to get it together so they can work. And if there are other players in the market, then what's your difference? And then, of course, what are your qualifications for you to be able to stand here and be speaking to us about these things? And so those have been some of the challenges. And what we do is we're constantly reinventing ourselves, not in doing something new all the time or latching onto different things, but finding a way for people to say, well, nobody else is looking at this. And one of them is what I shared earlier, focusing on Tanzania. Tanzania can develop without Tanzanians as a Tanzanian. If you want to play a role, if you want to have a part, then you have to look the part. You have to act a certain way and think a certain way. And so that's been our edge. Think national transformation, you think professional approach, you think Modesta. The other thing is delivery. Expectations aren't that high because service is so compromised and quality is so compromised. To deliver over and above what you said you would. That is a challenge because there are times that the client themselves will give you the deal, but whichever officer's dealing with it might want you to bribe them and you won't. I refuse to bribe. It could be that people just want, give me the 7 steps of blah so that I can unlock my potential. And it isn't the 7 steps of blah, it's maybe going through your past, going through this nation's past, going through upbringing, and there's certain things. Psychologists like this, and people just give me the quick fix. What do I need to do and get on with it? And that's a challenge because I don't want to come in with an intervention and people say that stuff doesn't work. It's because you're not willing to go through the transformation with us. So constantly looking at what is the need out there, what is not being served, or how. Maybe it could be a how, not exactly a whole new area, and coming in and taking great risks.
There's a lot there. A lot of challenges, and a lot of those challenges relate to particular pieces of business that you have. But you also have these 5 businesses working together.
Yes.
What kind of challenges of making sure that their vision, each one of those units, stays on course with the vision that you have for the organization?
So the vision remains the same, that we're going to build economies that are fueled by confident, tenacious, entrepreneurial, ethical mindsets. And this is through transforming the way people think and they perform in business. So each one of them has this group overarching vision and mission, although they have their own separate entities. Now, professional approach development, which was professional approach limited from the onset, is recruitment training. I thought from the experience I had before that we need to get the right type of people in jobs. And then Maanisha came in because we realized by the time somebody's looking for a job, they're already at a disadvantage. And so going back to the education system. And the professional SMEs came in because, well, there aren't enough jobs to go around. Only 2 million Tanzanians contribute towards pay as you earn. 43 million don't. They're not formally employed. So what do the rest of 43 million do? What do the 60% of Tanzanian youth do? They start businesses on their own. And so that's professional SMEs. But then you start SMEs and you think you need money. People may get the know-how. People can Google a lot of things. But it's access to markets and access to finance. Professional Approach Center is because of the way we present ourselves in business. Whether you're going to call a business, whether you're outside looking in, you couldn't find some websites, some people at their websites. That's very important, how we present ourselves. So it's getting into this contact center business with this Pan-African business. And professional approach legal, I'm an advocate, so is my colleague Happiness, and we want to look at alternative dispute resolution. Keep the cases out of courts. There's a backlog out there. Keep it within a relationship. Let's communicate first before we resort to formal litigation. So they're all linked, and I may be able to be involved in all of them, but it is not practical. And so the model that I have is I have associates, people who either had their own businesses or still do. Some of them have folded in their businesses and they've submitted it under the subsidiary, the professional approach group subsidiary that they work with. Some have handed over some of their work and they do it under the group, and then we'll do a few other things. And so we've got flexible terms with these heads, these managing directors of these entities, or else I wouldn't be able to hold it together. So they're great, competent. Where I am right now, I can't afford to pay them.
Right.
And so we have associate agreements where we split on what we bring in, and that works very well. But of course, everybody else under the entities is under the group payroll. They're employed, well, whereas the rest are associates. The heads are associates.
So what advice would you give to somebody who's looking to expand their organization? Some things that they need to consider in doing that, creating a new division or something along those lines.
Why? Why do you want to expand? I know someone who's doing very well who doesn't actually want to expand. You have to ask yourself why you're doing this. There are a lot of things that you could either do in partnership with others. You could just have associates and say, you know, this is our portfolio, a service offering, but actually associates are doing 3/4 of it. You really need to have a very good reason for why you want to expand your outfit. I mean, if it's only to just build an empire, okay, you could register a bunch of businesses and then they will all die. You have to be very clear as to what it is you want to do. And ask yourself if you couldn't do them as, have divisions under the same business, have wings, create a CSR arm to it, collaborate with other players in the market or in that sector, or maybe professional associations, and do some things together as an association. Not everything has to be done by you, but where you do decide to expand it, and that is your intention, be very clear about how you're going to source those funds to make that happen. Stagger the expansion unless you've got a lot of resources and you've got the funds to do it. Start piecemeal, and so for instance, with professional approach legal, is just going to hold on to the alternative dispute resolution because that sets us apart, and you know that will attract more money than if we were to start off with company secretary, which everybody else does. So by all means, have great dreams, start small, and test every little thing in the market before you set out.
And a lot of companies don't look at partnerships enough, I don't think.
Because of the ego. I started it, it's my baby.
Yeah.
I took a beating though, Suzanne, because initially I did hold on to everything because I thought I have this vision and somebody else may not understand it. And this is a social enterprise. I'm not in this for the money. But initially it was, I want to transform Tanzania through this. And I don't want somebody to come and say, you know what, if we pull this and pull that lever and do that, we're going to bring a lot of money, but it won't catch. And it won't have a life of its own. It'll be a couple of people who are pulling things. Then I could do anything else to make money. And I held on to it, which means when it was shaken, the organization was as strong as I was. And I still have a lot that's compromised. The reason why I have these people who head the subsidiaries, the associates that work with us, the reason why I'm getting to these partnerships is I appreciate the end of me as Modesta. And no matter how well educated I could be, and I'm not the most educated people I'm sure you've interviewed, I couldn't hold all of this together. And so I learned the hard way because I tried to hold on to it because I thought nobody else understands what I'm trying to do here, and they would compromise it. But yes, they are people who understand, and they understand it very well.
What was the switch when you decided I need to let go part of this?
There are two elements to it. I can't do it on my own in terms of the workload and the competence. I've got a team because I can't do it on my own. But in terms of partnerships between businesses, I think I got to a point, I think it was around the same time with the challenges of having to prove yourself. I don't need to prove my age, my competence, my education. I thought, you know what, or either having to prove myself or a bunch of players getting into the market can't exactly do things well, but the market can differentiate between all of you. And so saying, you know, there has to be a difference. And I have huge dreams and great ambitions, and I see Tanzania transforming the entire African continent. But they would take 50 years to realize if I were to do it by myself. And so with strategic partnerships, somebody's got the funds, someone's got the expertise, someone's got access to the markets, somebody else has experience, and you bring in what you have at the table. Many a times in starting businesses, people say, well, I don't have the capital, I don't have the money. Well, you know what? You don't really want money to have money, you want what money will buy. And so if you can find that thing already, and without having to spend the money, partner with that person. I mean, what's the point of having 100% of, you know, a $10,000 business when I could have 50% of, you know, a $10 billion business? And so I offer the 50%, but make sure that our position isn't compromised, because at the end of the day, I'm doing this. I'm making a statement about what can come out of Tanzania. My businesses are here to make a statement. My businesses are here to say we didn't see that coming. We couldn't even understand how something like that can come out of a business environment such as this. And so even in our partnership, I want to make sure that that is not lost. If I were to drop dead today, my teams understand that. We want to wow the world, because this is the last place on earth you would expect greatness to come out of.
So have you ever done an initiative that started and it just didn't work?
Yes.
And could you just share one with us and what you would do differently now as a result of that?
This very thing seemed just not to work for almost a year and a half. Mm-hmm. See, I'm a calculated risk taker. I don't get into many things that won't work. I kind of try to see from the onset. And because I see the value of working with other people and not leaving it to just me and my strength, I've learned very quickly to do things with others so that you can share the load. But if one thing that just didn't seem to work was this. I thought I had my ducks in a row and everything in place. And people would say that, you know, the economic crisis, but I don't believe in things like that. And so I can't blame it on that. I think I was rigid and I was holding on to things, and everything I tried to do to see professional courage take off died.
There's a lot of your messages are very much look to yourself, regardless of the circumstances in which you're in, and what you can do to ride it, get past it, overcome it. Because a lot of times, and at the beginning of this interview, you were talking about Tanzania looking elsewhere.
Yes.
And you're really taking that responsibility. So you're consistent with your messaging and your branding, which is wonderful. But it's an important message, is what are you doing?
Absolutely.
You know, what are you doing that you can change the environment in which you are in? Because the reality is the environment's not going to change for you.
No.
Which kind of leads us to our Edgeness Insight. Just a reminder, our Edgeness Insight focuses on something that you've had to do that makes you uncomfortable, but you have to continue to do it. It's sort of pushing the edge of your comfort zone. If you didn't do it, you probably would not be as successful as you are today.
It doesn't exactly make me uncomfortable, but I understand the repercussions, and it is speaking out. And I come out sounding like an activist. I don't mean this, but so Maanisha is media edutainment, and we've had government going out to find out why we're building youth capacity. So what do you mean by we're building youth capacity? So they're competitive, so that they develop. Yes, but who is behind it? Who's behind this show? And it's Modesta. But who is behind Modesta? There is no one behind Modesta. So what is her vested interest in making a difference? You know, like it's something to be suspicious about. And you know, I'm open about this, and I'll say that the government has come up and warned me. We're interviewing the president, and State House called me to behave myself as I interview the president. And so there is. People don't understand. I guess activists do this, or you know, revolutionaries, or you know. Yes, I'm bringing on a revolution, but it is not in arms. It is business. It's economic in nature. And so being heard, and increasingly so being associated with me, people get a little uncomfortable because I'm very upfront, but I'm a business person. It scares the system still to have a voice that is not politically affiliated, and especially with the ruling party. But I'm not in this for politics. If I were to get into politics, I get into politics and I would do very well. But I'm doing business, but touching on social transformation, and that is a concern. So I think each time I get up and I say certain things, I'm like, oh gosh, I wonder how this is going to play out. Because you get people who might address my parents, and they're both in politics, and say, tell your daughter to behave. But it's really telling youth what they need to do to stand, and I'm not even talking about stand for your rights. It's claim your position in business, position yourself to succeed.
What is success to you?
Success to me is influence. Success to me is moving, walking into my office, greeting people, sitting in circles, whether it is think tank groups in this country or outside, and people are saying, you've ignited something in us, and I'm going to transform my world because of something that you spurred on in you. That to me is success. Because just as I've realized with business, I realize with transforming this nation and transforming this world, you cannot do it on your own. So the more people catch onto the vision, and the more people feel empowered, the more successful you are. That is power, that is success. That you've been able to ignite in somebody else the vision, the will, I'll call it the power, the confidence to be able to influence their world for the better. I often say that I feel that I can already now leave a legacy. Not because I've done a lot of great things, but there's a seed that I planted. And I'm very grateful for what it started to do in this country and outside.
So if there was one thing you would do differently in pursuit of that success, what would it be?
I would have groomed my teams for leadership a lot sooner. I started off leading up front, and I have capable, competent followers, but I wasn't grooming leaders from the very outset. Maybe if they caught something off of me, but I wasn't deliberate about it. And this is what I've learned. I have been called, and I believe I've been called by God to position leaders, to groom leaders. So there are giants that are meant to step over me and go lead. And so I would have done that sooner. I'm more deliberate about it right now, but I wish I'd done it a whole lot sooner.
What are you doing now to create leaders? Because this is often the gap. The succession planning is a big void.
Getting to know what moves them. Where are you going in life? How is this place serving your vision? Because if it's not, then it's another job and you just get by and then off you go. Also, what I often tell people is, it's because I'm loud and I'm invisible that all these things come to me. I'll continue getting a lot of opportunities because I started something, and now because I'm known, I'm the face of transforming Tanzania and building capacity, then invitations will keep coming to me. But I've got giants on my team that people don't know of because they're in my shadow. And so I get to learn of people's interests. There are opportunities that we will spend money to have people take part of, not because it will directly impact our business or benefit us, but it will take that person somewhere. Because this person who's giving up their time and their energy to us is on their journey somewhere. Their journey could well be here and continue here, but it could be somewhere else, and I want everybody to say it was worthwhile. And if for everybody to say, matter of fact, by feeding into Modesta's vision, feeding into mine. Apart from what a person could have come here to do in terms of your job description, it is also fitting into people's interests, linking them with people in the market that share interests. I have lost people because of that, because then they went off and good for them.
Does that bother you? That you've prepped them, you've lifted them up for success, and then, especially if they went to somebody who's competitive?
I thought I would be, but I'm not, because I'm very confident about this. This vision is so compelling, it attracts, and it attracts the right people. And even if you stay with me, if you're not the right person, you'd fall away. So I'm more confident not on just me and what I do, on this vision, what is attracted. And because of the minds it attracts, because of the interest it attracts, you find that people want to be associated with. So a good example, my colleague who worked with us left, hosts, our radio show, which is the best radio talk show in the country, and then now wants to come back and consult. It's just a full circle. And somebody else who left, but they work with Maanisha. And so I know they won't ever really leave, but I still have this thing, because I'm about the same age as most of my colleagues. I don't want anyone to ever look back and say, I fed into her vision, and I don't even know what I got out of it. Okay, I got a job, I could have worked anywhere else. And so if you need to spread your wings, you need to try something else, and we're entrepreneurs, we're learning as we go. You want to go to an organization that's established maybe, and that's been there, and it's got a name of over 50 years in the market. If that's what makes you comfortable, by all means explore so that you know the difference. And I will groom you to be the best you can be. Because at the end of the day, it's about Tanzania and not about Modesta and the professional coach group. If you come out of here and you're as fired up as I am about this country, and you see the opportunities I do, and you're about being professional and ethical and really transforming other lives, great, because I may not have gotten to get into that organization. So yes, by all means, I think this is going to be a finishing school and go out. But the good thing about doing that is they come back in one way or another, and I'm very grateful. You realize that you've done a great thing, and then people call you and they say, what is it that you do? Where do you get these people from? What is it out there? And you're the reference point to everything. And I said, well, this has done something good, we've done something right.
As a leader, what would you find are 3 most powerful pieces of advice that you can give?
You can't be popular all the time. You can't be popular. Don't seek popularity. Don't seek to impress. I don't mean don't be presentable. I mean you're a leader, and you can't do things by consensus. You can't all sit around and sing kumbaya. There are times that you will have to stick your neck out and make decisions that are hard. It doesn't make you a man. You're not trying to be masculine. You're not trying to change the order of things. You're the leader. You can't delegate the vision. You can appoint people who will take, the workload, but still, ultimately, you're the final decision maker. Even if you sat together and you all decided. If they're saying no, you say no. If it makes you unpopular, then let it be. Often, with hindsight, people come and say, I'm so grateful, you made that call, because I think that we're going to take it down to the ground. And sometimes as women, we don't want to be unpopular, we don't want to ruffle people's feathers, and you'll have to, as a leader. That's what leadership is. I stick my neck out, I see something, and at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, I pave the way. And I'll have to pay if it doesn't work. And of course, you will all reap the benefits where it does. You can't be everybody's friend. You can be around so many people yet be so lonely, because yes, you can be buddies and friends, but you have to be set apart. You're thinking of holding things together. While somebody's thinking, oh, my division, my organization, oh, that program, I'm thinking 5 businesses that need to take off at the same time, 5 entities that need feedback from me, discipline all around. You can't sit and rub shoulders. So yeah, it'll get lonely, but there are other leaders as well. Seek other people at that level. Lead by example. You're not going to tell me to do anything that you're not doing yourself. You can't bulldoze an adult into doing something. You can't even pay them enough to do something. Especially if you want people to buy into a vision and run with it. Show it, live it. Live it when you're down. Live it when you're up. Live it when it's confusing. Live it when there's an onslaught of discouragement. Live it so that they can see it too. Which means it's very difficult as women if you've got other, and I'm very grateful to God, I'm single and I have no children. I have family and responsibilities, but I can't even imagine how I would have pulled this stunt with those kinds of responsibilities. But you know what? You still have to be there at the front line. Not like, I'm right behind you guys. No, you still have to lead it. But they must also understand that I have family and I have other interests. And people won't step over that. But you need to still be the leader, be at the forefront, and make those tough decisions.
Let's say you have a 10-year-old daughter. Today.
Yes.
What words of wisdom would you give to her?
You were created for a purpose. You didn't come to the world to start building yourself up through school and through work to find significance. You are significant already, because there is something that God ordained already for you to do. And so listen inside. And don't be shaken by trends. Don't be shaken by what people say. Don't be shaken about being popular. You're not created to fit in. You're created to stand out and attract.
What words of wisdom do you wish you were told at 10 years old?
At 10 years old, I wish I was told, first of all, to stand spiritually. Really to follow Christ and just to go to church. At 10 years old, I wish I was told, boys actually, at 10. I think I would be arrested that I was raised by a very strong woman who didn't ever mention that I was, and work with me, a girl, one of 5, she's a single mother, come from Africa, one of the poorest countries in the world, blah, blah, blah. And because that wasn't constantly drummed at me at 10 years old, I didn't ever see them as hurdles. By omission, my mother actually probably gave us the strongest message, my sister and I. Yeah.
What words of wisdom would you like to leave to African women?
Africa cannot develop without African women. Cannot. And I'm not talking about, agriculture and also contributing. I mean the greatest of development that we can think of in terms of nation building and infrastructure and business and strong economies that are influencing the rest of the world cannot happen without women. And I'm not being a feminist. The reason why I say this is still, it is the woman that is responsible for the upbringing of the girl and the boy child. And so who we think we are, what we believe we're capable of, what we think of our environment, of our country, what we think of others and how we relate to others and how much we collaborate with them stems from our mothers. Still in Africa, it's more women than men. And so whether I think I can or I cannot will come from my mother and the women that surround her. Whether the boy child will grow to respect women or not stems from the mother. And not just what the mother told her, is what they saw the mother happening to the mother. And so it rests squarely on African women's shoulders. And initially, only African women's shoulders. To be the examples that we need our young boys and girls to see. But also to speak those words that will make us see that we can do things. It is unfortunate, but it still rests on women. And so how I conduct myself in business, how well I do, bringing other women up, whether it be peers or it's young girls, will shape what they think of Tanzania, what they think of business, what they think of competition. How I conduct myself as against men sends a message of what it is as a woman, what it takes as a woman to compete in business. It rests squarely with us. We influence generations to come. So if I'm going to have a very timid, insecure young girl, I'm going to have a very aggressive, pushy young boy, they're going to be the mothers and fathers and the leaders, the opinion shakers and the transformation leaders of tomorrow. And we're going to repeat this cycle. It is on me to pick other people up, to show them it is possible. People receive a message a whole lot more from women than they do from men, because we initially also shaped morals and ethics in society. And so there's no way around it.
You've given us a lot of insight, and we hear often that it is the women that share that responsibility, but it is the women that share the responsibility at such a young age, because it is the messages that they are saying. Absolutely. It is what they are doing that will change the landscape, in your case, of Tanzania.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. My name is Suzanne F Stevens, and another inspiring interview. And watch this woman. She is definitely going places. I'm just going to give you my words of wisdom before I wrap up. Youth will change tomorrow, but they'll walk in the path of leaders. So it's very important when you look behind as a leader, are you creating the path that you want replicated? And as much as that's women's responsibility, I think it's everyone's responsibility. And in this case, Tanzania's responsibility to make sure we're creating the leaders of tomorrow. Again, my name is Suzanne F Stevens, and I co-produce Wisdom Exchange TV along with my husband, Michael K. Ginrich. We are traveling throughout Africa, interviewing women leaders just like the woman we interviewed today. So if you have a woman that you think we should interview, that's a trailblazer, a pioneer, or leader of many in your country, please email us at info@wisdomexchangetv.com. Again, join our fan page at Suzanne F Stevens. Keep abreast of what's happening. We'll talk about women's issues, we talk about learning, we talk about women that we've interviewed, as we'll do that right after today. And also, go to our front page of our site where you'll see blogs and words of wisdom constantly being updated. Thank you for joining us in our first interview in Tanzania, where we'll have many more.